All right. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome, Noelle. Uh, Thank you for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Noelle Willbanks. I am a civil engineer. Went to Fresno State. I've been on the board of ASCE off and on since, I believe, 1997. Started as the student chapter. In those days, we didn't have a YMF, so we went right to the parent branch. I was on the parent branch. Served as the student liaison for many years. Scholarship committee. Scholarship chair, did a lot of the student interviews for that. Then I went through the ranks of the parent branch once again in the 2010s as treasurer, secretary, vice president, and all the way up to section director until about 2 years ago. And I've been sort of busy with, I opened my own company. Actually, I guess we're just celebrating six and a half years right now. And we just moved because we grew out of our office, and we had 6 of us in 420 square feet. So we're moving this week into a nice big office, and hopefully we'll have room for more people and more work.
Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's exciting.
That sounds like me when I was in college and we'd get a hotel room for wherever we're staying, 400 square feet and 6 people.
That's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah.
So that's what I said. We have a grown-up office now. We actually have a kitchen,
Nice.
which is like huge.
Yeah.
You got to have amenities like that to win over some of the younger talent out there.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. So we can, I got an oven that's just big enough for pizzas. So the guys already cooked their pizzas in there this week, and they're happy.
Lately, staying at home, I definitely have been using those to just kind of get a quick lunch. It's been nice to just pop that in. So, how many companies have you been working in through your career?
Okay, well, I started out in school. I worked for Malden Dorfmeyer Construction, which was a really big construction company led by 2 civil engineers, Alan Malden and Pat Malden and Alan Dorfmeyer. I worked there for several years, but then I also needed design experience in order to get my PE, to qualify to take the PE. So from there, I went to Carollo for 6 months perhaps. And then I came across a position at URS for about 18 months. And then I did a switch. URS and BSK did a big switch, and the principals switched. They took 5 employees. And then, so the principal from BSK, 5 employees, the principal from URS, 5 employees, and we just switched.
Wow.
So then I worked at BSK for 13 years. And then I opened this company 6.5 years ago, Willbanks Environmental.
Wow, that's amazing. For recent grads or people still in school, how have you been able to, switch between those different industries? You mentioned wanting to get design experience. How has that experience been for you? And then in school, like, how big of an emphasis is the emphasis that they have you select?
So, well, that's sort of like a 2-part question. There's a little bit of history. So in school, I took all of, timber design, steel design. I was really big into design because I thought that's what engineers do. I took some environmental, took some soils. I took a bunch of different things. And really didn't know what was interesting to me. I did work at Caltrans as an intern, and working in Caltrans, I realized that maybe transportation design is not my thing. And so when I went to Malden Dorfmeyer Construction, I really enjoyed being out there working in the field, getting dirty, actually building things. And I really enjoyed that job. And I was actually very sad to leave it. And then when I went to Carollo, so that's completely different. We're designing wastewater treatment facilities, writing specifications, doing design work. And that was not really my thing. So like I said, I liked the working outside. And so when I pursued this job at URS, and there's some history to that, I'll tell you about that in a minute, but I knew it's outside work. So we're working outside, we're, you know, doing water testing and doing all these things. And it's a little bit more high energy and working outside, which I really enjoy doing because it really makes the days go by fast. So they're doing, you know, URS and BSK. So that I really enjoy that work, and now I've been doing 6.5 years of it on my own because I do really enjoy it, and I enjoy the interaction with people, and this consulting is it's stressful, but you're never bored, never. I love it. And what did I learn about that in school? Nothing. What school taught me to do, honestly, was to solve problems, and that's really to work in a team, to solve problems, to respect your authority figures, and the engineering program at Fresno State, I think, really gives you those tools, and those tools can help you be successful in anything else that you do. But as far as like the timber design, some of those things, I mean, I remember a little bit. Algebra, I use algebra all the time, but I think I learned that in 6th grade.
So I guess what I get out of that is that the classes that you take during school don't necessarily dictate your career path outside of school. Right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And civil engineering is so broad. I mean, you can literally do anything you want, I think. Like I said, what that program really does is it teaches you to solve problems. And what better skill is there to have than being able to solve problems if someone presents you with one? I will tell you about the URS, and actually the reason that I'm an engineer at all is I used to work as a receptionist, and I worked for Dames and Moore as a receptionist in 1994, maybe. And I really liked, Dames and Moore was purchased by URS, so that was the same company. And I decided in 94, 95 that I really liked what those engineer guys were doing. I didn't even know, I never heard of an engineer before. So I quit being the receptionist, and I went to school to get my engineering degree. And then I got the job at URS. So, and that's kind of, that motivated me because they're working outside. Look at how much fun they're having. And so I have that job I'm doing, and it's great. I love it.
Great. During interviews, what's something that you always look for in candidates?
Oh, okay. When I'm interviewing somebody, the very, very first thing is, do they look you in the eye, and do they shake your hand? And the confidence level. The confidence level is well, first impressions. So, you know, you meet some people, if they're not able to look you in the eye and they're not able to shake your hand and really mean it. Now, not kill your hand, but to give you a firm, you know, hello, I'm genuinely happy to meet you. And then also notice some things of how observant people are. Like if people look around the room and notice things in the room, or maybe ask questions outside of what you're asking them directly, also leaves an impression.
How do you mitigate between like, you know, somebody being nervous or like, how do you discern between nerves and like confidence, I guess?
Well, that's hard to say. The handshake.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, yeah, because someone who's seems very sure of themselves and comes up and gives you that nice greeting, they're showing you sort of inside that they have confidence. So they may people who don't do that, because I get really nervous too. I'm nervous right now a little bit.
There's no need to be. This is Pancakes and Principles.
I know.
Yeah, it's just a laid-back conversation.
Hey, we can do. Oh, I have my too.
Yeah.
Have you taken a sip from your pancake cup yet?
I have.
Now, when you're interviewing, or when you decide you want to hire somebody for a position, I guess, do you have a personality in mind, or like a skill set in mind that you're really looking for that position? Because obviously every position requires different type of person. You don't want maybe an alpha type personality for every position. How do you go about that?
Well, that's a really good point. And for me in my office, I think about the dynamics of the office. And it's not just the person themselves, it's how they would fit in with the rest of the people in the office. And you're right, like there are some people who work really fast. And then there are other people, they work very fast, but they may miss something. And then you have other people that may work slower, but they're very detailed and they get it. And I've had employees over the years who said, oh, well, so-and-so is so slow. And I'm like, okay, but wait a minute. Didn't she catch the error that you missed? Well, yeah. And that's why we have a team, a dynamic team. So yeah, it's very important to me to pick not only the competent person, like you said, like a super alpha who's going to come in and try to take over, but someone who can complement the team that we have and hopefully bring in a new skill.
Yeah, our last interviewee, our guest was Anman, and yeah, and I remember, I don't think he told us this he may have in the interview, but I remember him saying, he's like, it's not all about the person, it's about the team. And if they're not going to fit in this team, well, he's like, they might be one of the smartest people out there, but I don't know if I want them.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. It's the dynamics of the team, for sure.
Yeah, I think just like with picking the type of work that you want to do, you also want to pick the kind of people and kind of environment that you're in. Can you speak to that? Like, was there any thing that played on the environment that you're in, like working outside versus working inside, and the kind of activities that go along with that?
So it's the interaction with people, I think, more than anything else. Talking with regulators, talking with vendors, talking with clients, and really having a sort of dynamic, fast-paced. I really kind of feed on that fast pace under pressure. And I have a lot of that. And the pressure really motivates me to try to get things done. And I'm very particular too about the quality of the product that leaves. So I have to, I mull things over, let's make sure everything is done right. It might take a little longer, but I think it's really important that all these pieces fit together.
Mm-hmm.
So Noelle, what's your typical morning and daily routine from the time you wake up until the time you head home from the office? And then how has that changed at all since, I guess, since March, when all the COVID lockdowns went in place and a lot of the rules changed?
Right. Okay. So I'm not a morning person per se. Well, I kind of am. So pre-COVID, I would get up, go to boot camp at 6:30, get home, take my son to school, come home, eat breakfast, take a shower, go to work, and I would go to work at 9 because it's very important to me. This is actually a really big deal to me, to be able to take care of my son, who's 13 now, and even working at BSK when he was little, I would come in. I told him I can't come in at 8 o'clock because my son wants me to take him to school, and I'm going to take him to school. And I'll work half-hour lunches. I'll do whatever I need to do to make up the time, but my family is number one, because they only stay little for so long,
Yeah.
And
13's not very little anymore.
I know, but it just seems like yesterday when he was just a little kid.
Yeah, I don't even think he was in preschool when I first started working at BSK.
Oh,
he was only a couple of years old.
Yeah, this is a baby.
Yeah.
I know, 13 now, almost old enough to drive a car.
Yeah.
So that was pre-COVID, and that was pretty much every day. And all the while, like my phone actually starts ringing at about 6:30 in the morning. And all, you know, especially because we have a lot of clients from the Chicago area. So sometimes it'll start ringing at 6 and I have to remind them, hey guys, I'm in California. I don't work till 9 anyway, so the phone shouldn't be ringing until 7. But so then when COVID hit, that was something else. I stayed home and I set up this little office in my front room, and I stayed home for several months. A lot of the reason was because my son was here, and I don't want to leave him alone all day, every day. You know, you worry about the emotional health of your children being alone, as well as, I mean, I wouldn't want to be alone all day. And so then when we started having that surge, it was really bad for a little while. I basically set up the whole office to where everybody could work from home. You know, I had to give one guy a computer, but everyone could remote in to their computer, to their servers. We have remote access to all of our files through a remote drive. And we had all that set up anyway. So it was really pretty smooth transition. I needed one person in the office for packages and things like that. So our admin would stay at the office, or we have one guy who would never leave the office. He refused. So he was always there. It worked out. So then, and then this, like last, it was a little bit harder in March, May, because the schools had no idea what they were doing. Now this year, the school year, they've really got it down, and they've got these kids all set up and scheduled. And so because I think I stayed home the first 3 weeks of the kids' school, and now we're back to the office. And that's one of the reasons I got a bigger office, because I'm like, these people are breathing their COVID on me. So, so now I have my own office, and we're all 6 feet apart, and it's kind of back to normal.
Yeah. So now where's your new office at now?
It's at the Millbrook and Alluvial, just catty corner from Clovis West.
Great. Yeah. How does the office feel now? Obviously, you guys got a new space, but how is it getting back to work from working remotely for a while?
It's a lot better with the more room, having my own office, because I'm kind of one of those COVID worry people, you know. So now we're all pretty far apart, and it's just back to the grind, you know. I still show up at 9:05, leave it, you know, 5:15 or whatever. Yeah, it's working out pretty well. And the new office is really nice. We're going to have an open house sometime soon, here in Tri-Tip.
Nice.
As soon as I get my new carpet.
Yeah. Do you see any innovations coming out of this, like social distance, shelter in place, like or remote work that?
I do, actually. I think actually really what I've always known is that I can be more productive working from home than I can in an office, because there's just so many things coming at me from all these different directions. And it used to be like, even back working at BSK, you know, 7 years ago, I'd be like, I got to get this report done, so I'm going to go home. And it was a little bit different then, because I have to take a flash drive, and I would take my flash drive home, open my computer, get my work done. I have to flash drive it back. But now, like with these, you know, remote PC programs, I mean, I can really get work done very easily. And I've also found, I think I seem to be working much longer hours. For instance, if I wake up and think about something, I just come into my office and I log into my computer and I do my work. And I also seem to be working much later, but then I can also take breaks in the middle and watch people's work. Mm-hmm. So it's a longer day, but I think it's really productive. And I think it allows you to be with your family too, which I'm really appreciative of. And I think across the board, they've done some studies that show that a lot of people really like it. And it has a great impact on traffic, on as many people out there, on people's stress levels, on their diets.
Yeah. I like you said, I think something that I've noticed is that there's going to be a change where you're not just working necessarily at the office all the time. There's going to be people will be coming in, working a few days out of the week at home, or I've even heard of some companies doing shift work and having people come in at different staggered times or different days. And so I definitely see that.
Yeah, I actually think it's beneficial to us, to be quite honest with you. It kind of took, there was a moment there at the beginning of this, and I was like, wow, this is actually really cool. But I also my business wasn't impacted much either.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Ken?
Oh, I was going to say, for me, there's, some pros and cons. I got a 1-year-old at home, and I loved being here because, I got to see him all the time. At the same time as it could be a little distracting. But I did get to eat all day long, which is something that, I do at the office anyway. I have like, the fridge is full and I have ice cream in the freezer, but at home is, I guess, a little easier. But I don't think we'll ever go completely back to full office life after this.
No, I don't think so. I don't. I think we've proven that people can still be very productive from home, and going in a couple of days a week.
Yeah, being able to take walks or anything like that during the day is nice.
Right.
Yeah. Cook a lunch, take a walk, mow the lawn.
Right.
knock out some of those chores that you're going to do after work. Yeah.
Clean the pool. Yeah.
Right.
What aspect of life do you think people will appreciate more after this?
I can't speak for anyone else, but I certainly can't speak for myself, and that's the social life and my golf life. And getting together, like Rotary, I'm in Rotary, I miss people. I miss people badly. I think that that and family, obviously family, yes, we appreciate our children more and get to see them more. I'm grateful to see them more. But the social life is really important. And going to the ASCE meetings, or going to your Rotary meetings, or going, like the golf tournament that was canceled. It's like, God, I look forward to that every year.
Next year, I promise.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm ready.
Oh,
I had a lot of golf tees.
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, and Willbanks Environmental sponsored thousands of golf tees for everybody, and they're sitting in our office.
Yeah.
A lot of teas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree that the social aspect is huge. Like, having get-togethers is just not the same through Zoom. Even like I went to I did a couple conferences and over the computer, and it's just not the same. Although the last one that I did was pretty cool because they had almost like a timed like networking, so you got matched up with people for like 2 minutes and you actually got to meet. So I thought that was interesting, but I definitely miss like the in-person stuff for sure.
Yeah, and it's hard when you actually do see someone too, because you're covered.
Yeah.
It's like, hi, so you learn to talk with your eyes.
Yeah. I never thought you could like smile with your eyes.
You totally can.
As a leader of your company, I'm sure you run into some obstacles along the way, whether big or small, immediate or long term. Name one thing that sticks in your mind that you overcame.
Did I pick that question? That's a hard question.
We could switch.
There's a lot of obstacles.
What kind of, are you a book person? Do you like what kind of books do you like to read?
I do. I like books. I'm a Stephen King fanatic.
Nice.
What am I reading now? I don't know. What I read, Jim Comey's book. I read that. I read a lot of Facebook. I read a lot of fake news recently. Not much good reading. A really good book that I read pretty recently was The Circle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard about that. It's sort of like Google and your invasion of privacy. It's a really good book.
I think I heard of it. Did they recently make a movie out of it?
They did. And of course the movie's not nearly as good as the book.
Yeah.
But that was really good. I mean, it's a little terrifying. People
Yeah.
you should try it. You should read it.
Yeah. I recently watched the Social Dilemma on Netflix.
Oh, that was cool.
Yeah.
Scary.
That was terrifying.
Yeah.
Name one.
Well,
go ahead, Ken.
I was gonna say, well, I want to go back to the obstacle. I'll just make a very. I'll ask you about a very specific obstacle. Like, so when you started your business, I'm sure there was maybe something that was, I don't know, what was the toughest part about starting your own business?
Well, I never intended to start my own business. It was never the intent. We had issues, you know, at the last office, and I applied to every winery I could in the state. Nobody wanted a water engineer. But I had a poker buddy actually say, hey, you've been working on my project for 10 years. I need you to finish it. It's almost done. I need you to finish it. So he forced me, actually. He made me open. And so, I mean, that in and of itself was a huge obstacle, deciding to like, really, am I going to do this? Like, I need a job. And he's actually one of my biggest clients now still. Totally different projects. He brought me a bunch of other stuff, but I go, you know, Ken, his name is Ken, I can't do this. And he's like, no, I know you can do this. And I have faith in you. I can trust you can do this. So, so the first obstacle was finding someone to help me, because this is field work and it's big, heavy equipment. And so I hired a neighbor, you know, hey, come help me do this. And I remember getting that first check, you know, wow, look, we actually made money on our own. And so then I sat down, CPA. One of the very first things I did was sit down with the CPA and say, you know, well, how do I do this? What do I do? I have no clue what's going on. And so just going through all that, and it took months for me to figure out, you know, the QuickBooks, the accounting system, you know, how to register for all these things. And it just slowly developed. But then the hardest thing I think out of all of that was hiring my first employee. I lamented for weeks. It's like, okay, now I don't have to just pay my rent. I have to pay someone else's rent too. And that was a terrifying decision. And it was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. Finally, because I'm taken away from a good company where I know they're going to get a paycheck. And I'm like, all right, let's do this. And she had faith in me too. She stayed with me for 5 years. So, so we did it. It just sort of, let's just jump off the cliff. We're going cliff diving, see what happens. And so a lot of things, and then, you know, like things you don't think about HR, like you're like, oh, nobody would ever do that, right? Oh yeah, employees do some things that you wouldn't think they would.
Yeah, so it sounds like,
yeah,
a lot of the operations and finance part of the business, that would seem pretty scary to me too.
It was pretty terrifying. And I also, through Rotary, I know a guy who is an HR consultant. So I have an HR department. It's a consultant, and I call him, you know, when I have HR issues. So as long as you can, you know, find these people in industry that help you pull it all together. That was a big part of it. Let's find our accounting. Let's find our bookkeeper. Let's find our HR guy. Let's find our IT department. So I have all those things now, that it's just this team that's been assembled from all sorts of little guys, and it's a pretty smooth oil machine.
That's amazing. That's so inspirational. I think going in business for yourself is one of the scariest things you could do. And so
yeah.
I definitely applaud you for doing that. I mean, tying into what you mentioned of how you got started, what's one compliment you received from a client or employee that's stood out or you haven't forgotten?
So yeah, I think one of the best ones, you know, in the whole career basically was it's from a client, and I was, you know, I'm trying to propose something like, hey, you know, we need to do, this is when I was trying to get the client. They had issues with their other consultant, so I went out to meet all of them, and he didn't say it to me per se, but he said it to the president of the company. And he said, you know, Noelle, we can trust her. She treats our money like it's her own money. You know, I'm frugal. I don't just go throwing money around, and I take it personally. And that was the one thing that he said, is that she really takes it personally. She treats it like it's her own business that she's doing. And I do, and I really do. It's all of my clients they're me, you know, or an extension of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then if we get into arguments with regulators, whoever, I'm very passionate, and I take it very personal, which isn't the best for me because I don't sleep a lot of nights. I need to learn to let it go, but I can't. I mean, they need to be fair to my clients. So anyway, that was the best one, is that we can trust Noelle because she cares.
Nice.
That's wonderful. So here's some fun ones for you. If you had unlimited time and money, what's one thing you do or take up right now?
Oh man, right now or anytime? Bora Bora.
Anytime.
Bora Bora. I've been saving points for 10 years to go to Bora Bora.
Pebble Beach.
I love traveling.
Yeah.
This has been really, really hard on me, this COVID thing. But yeah, unlimited time and money. I would go to the gym 2 hours a day and then the tanning booth so I could go to Bora Bora and look like Christy Brinkley. I don't know who the hot model is today, but.
What's your favorite hobby at the moment, or in general?
I like to make things. Right now, I'm making candles.
Oh, nice.
A lot of candles. I'm like, Christmas is coming, you know. I make beer in the fall and the spring. I love to make beer. Like to make candles. I like to golf. But the air's been so bad and so hot, we can't golf right now.
Yeah.
Air's
This morning, I just saw like a red dot in the sky.
Yeah.
One thing that you mentioned prior to us starting the recording was that you helped out with the Creek Fire. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I don't know if everyone's familiar, but there's that structural assessment program through the Office of Emergency Services that Doug Taylor puts on. That's a training I think he puts on once a year. So I took that training. I got certified however many years ago. So we were deployed last Tuesday, not really under the control of the OES, but more of the Fresno building department, building inspectors. So we were deputized building inspectors. So if you need your house checked, I can do that now. So we went up there. It was on last Tuesday, and it was the first day that they were letting people back up to see their houses. And the only people that were allowed to go were the people who had 100% destruction. So everybody we ran into, it was really a sight to see. I mean, the very first house we went to inspect, I hear this, Willbanks. And so I see this guy, he's my office neighbor from down here. And Fozzie, I look at his name and I look at my list and it's red. And I'm like, oh no. And the poor man was bursting in tears crying. That was so sad. He said, everything's gone. And the devastation up there is amazing. Like the whole Cressman's area, from the top of it, and then it jumped the 168, which is really big right there. It's a 4-lane, you know.
Yeah.
Jumped it, wiped out all these houses. And then some of the other areas, there's like, you see one house that the flame like literally comes up to within like 4 inches of the house. Unbelievable, you know. And you want to write on their inspection tag, you are so lucky. And then the next house is completely gone. Everything's gone. Some people had so much as the columns on their decking all burned off, so they can't go back on their deck, but their house was untouched.
Wow.
And everybody we ran into, I mean, it's devastating. So I know I had a girlfriend who has had this cabin for 18 years, just moved up full time 2 weeks ago, or 2 weeks before the fire, and had moved everything in and lost everything. And I think a lot of people are not going to rebuild up there.
Yeah, I guess I'm not too familiar with California's tax laws, but would the people that rebuild, would they end up having to, would their new house be assessed at like 2020 valuations, or do they get like a waiver to keep their old tax rate? Because I could understand why a lot of people wouldn't be able to afford to build a new home if they had to pay 5 times as much tax on it.
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, a lot of people, now this is a really sad part. A lot of people don't have insurance. For instance, the people whose cabins have been in their families for 60 years, they don't have a mortgage. They're not required to have insurance. Those people don't have insurance.
Yeah.
And now it also depends on your insurance too. If your insurance is replacement cost, because there's like a full replacement cost, or not so much. I don't know about the taxes though.
Yeah.
I would assume after your house is destroyed, you only pay the taxes on the limit.
Yeah, I mean, tax is a small amount of the cost of, I guess, rebuilding. So if you can't afford to rebuild, period, doesn't matter. But yeah, same goes with like people on flood insurance. If you don't have a loan on your house, you're not required to have flood insurance. And I mean, working for the flood control district, I've came across a couple of homes that were flooded in the last couple of years where we've had these 50 or 75-year storms, and these people didn't have flood insurance because they paid for their house in cash, and now they got a $50,000, $100,000 repair bill.
Wow.
So,
Well, actually, flood insurance isn't required by a mortgage company. I live
Really?
on Lake Powers out here. When it stormed like 3 years ago, we had a whole lake out here, and I asked Jimmy, do we have flood insurance? Because we're not in a flood zone. But if flood control made those inlets a little bit bigger.
That'd be too expensive.
I know, I'm just teasing.
I got a question for you. So, working, obviously you do some work outside of California, but doing probably most of your work in California, would you say California is underregulated, adequately regulated, or overregulated?
I'm an environmental guy. So let me tell you about environmental regulations. Holy cow. Hey, that's how I make a living. So if you ask me from the perspective of my client, like they say, I'm them, it's totally overregulated environmental. Do I appreciate the overregulation? Because that's how I earn my living? I do. But some things are just ridiculous. Like this fire stuff. It's ridiculous. They stopped grazing. What damage are cows doing? The cows are helping. They're coming in, they're cleaning out the underbrush. When I was a kid, everyone, we used to go up to the mountains, we worry about running into cows. It used to happen all the time. Then, I don't know, this forest management is a big to-do. I don't want to get political.
It's a big forest. I think it might cost quite a bit to.
Well, yeah, but see, that's why you let private people in to do that, because they make money doing it. And like anything, if you make money doing it, you're gonna probably do it. I don't know. You guys are a little young, but we used to go camping up there by Bass Lake on the logging roads, and you'd wake up Saturday morning at 6 a.m. and you got guys out there with their saws. Oh my gosh, it's a headache, but they were very nicely maintained roads, so there were big fire breaks everywhere, and they're gone. And it's hard to manage the forests. And then we have federal land too. California is really only responsible for a very small amount, but still you bring in private industry, and private industry, they like to make money.
Yeah, definitely. The most effective way of cutting the costs, right, is
to allow someone to make money to do it.
Right. So
yeah, and and it's so sad watching that up there. I know a lot. A lot of that is due to environmental regulations, but not necessarily California environmental regulations, but federal. It's the NEPA. From everything that I've heard, it's the NEPA that's really caused a lot of this mismanagement.
Tyler, do we have any audience questions?
Sure. Well, the idea behind this event is eventually we'll invite more people to participate, you know, just general audience, but we're still kind of getting our feet wet with it. But I got a few. Cassie, if you have any, feel free to unmute yourself or send a message. Do you have one, Cassie?
I do have a question.
Go for it.
You kind of briefly touched on it, but I'm curious more how COVID affected your ability to go out and do a lot of the field work.
Not at all. Our guys typically go out alone.
Oh.
And actually, when this first started, we got a letter from the state, basically, you know, those California environmental regulations. We got a letter from a state that says you are expected to meet every single deadline that's ever been applied to you. So what I did is at that time we didn't know, are they going to stop us from traveling? We had no idea. So we put a copy of that in all the work trucks and said, hey, if anyone messes with you, you pull this over. State of California has said you will meet every deadline we've given. So for what we do, groundwater monitoring, soil vapor monitoring, soil vapor testing, all these types of things, there was no effect on us at all. And typically, like I said, the guys go alone. And if they didn't, and they're in the same truck together, they wear a mask, but it's mostly outside. So we've been lucky so far, knock on wood.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I can attest to that too. I've been going on the field quite a bit for a couple construction projects that we've been doing some bridge construction on, and yeah, it's been pretty much uninhibited by the pandemic, thankfully.
It was very terrifying at first, though. We didn't know they were going to let us. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Let's see, I got a couple here. See, well, just hearing about how long you've been involved in the Fresno civil engineering community, like all the way back to college. What do you think sets the Fresno civil engineering community apart from other communities?
Oh, sure. What sets us apart? I think it's a very close-knit community. I think the fact that the parent branch tries to stay involved with the younger members and vice versa, and stay involved with the students so that you get this big network of people that you know, from like the students all the way up to some of the people who have been in, I don't know how long, like some people have been like Tony and Kel. And I mean, when I was in college, he was our mentor and he's still there. And Doug Taylor, I mean, those guys were around when I was in college. But I think, you know, watching the awards yesterday was really impressive. We had like 7 projects and everybody else was, you know, we got a lot of the San Francisco section awards.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we got Wyman officer, one our soon-to-be VP is gonna win a community service, I believe. So yeah, we're pretty proud of them.
Yeah, I think it's a really good group. I think there are a couple of things. It's basically a really small community in a big metropolitan area. I mean, we've got almost 1 million people now. And I think it's about community and everybody working together, having those networks, being able to call somebody if you need help. And I think it's a great group to be part of.
Sure. Yeah, I completely agree. See, what about your company sets you apart from other firms?
We've been doing this a long time. I have actually my boss from Diggs and Moore back in the 90s, and he was actually my boss at BSK. He kind of came with me, sort of semi-retired, so he brings a huge body of knowledge with him. I am very particular, very detail-oriented, and I know a lot of people. Have a big network, you know, vendors and as far as if you're talking employment wise, I'm the only one that takes my employees to Cabo. So.
that's enough for me.
We went to Cabo last year, and that's part of it, is that because it's so small. I think there are 7 or 8 of us now. Last June we all went to Cabo for Christmas. Took everyone on a cruise to Mexico. We've gone to San Francisco to eat, drink, San Francisco, stay a weekend. It's really important to me that all my employees are happy working there, and it's not just, it's not just a money mill. They're not making money for me. If we earn a profit, they get it back.
That's awesome. You have any others, Alex?
What's the most rewarding part of your job right now?
I think I don't know if I can think of one particular thing. And the whole thing as a whole is very rewarding. Good relationships with people. It's getting a little harder with the newer regulators, but I have some really good employees that I'm really proud of. I really enjoy working with on a regular basis. We even talk after work, which is good. I love it when we do a good job for our clients and we actually win, because what we do is very much like being a lawyer. So when you're dealing with these regulators, you're going back and forth and you're kind of arguing, presenting your case, they're presenting their case. And for instance, yesterday, I'll give you a quick one on this one, but we've been arguing this particular case for like 6 months. And we think that it goes this one way, the regulator disagrees, and they're like, but we have this guidance document. And he says, well, but that's not what the author intended. So what we did is we went and hired the author. And they wrote a letter yesterday and said, well, this is kind of what I meant. So it's the triumphs that, yes, I was doing it right. We did what we were supposed to do. And then, the client being happy. And then that comes into what the client does is they tell everybody else. And so that is sort of a self-propagating system there. If you do a good job, then you get more work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing. Advocating for your client and yeah. Well, Ken, do you have anything else, or?
I don't. I think it was a pretty good conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have anything else off the top of my head.
Noelle, if people want to hear more from you,
I do have a website. We just changed it, so it's WEC Environmental. And like I said, pretty soon, going to have once we get our new carpets, we're going to try to have an open house. I don't know how you do that with COVID, but we'll try to get together. And like I said, yeah, so I'm online. You can just type in my name into Google and the company name pops up with my phone number sitting right there. Hopefully, like I said, we've moved into this bigger office. We can give people more room to breathe and maybe get some additional people in there. And we're no longer sardines. So we've got.
So are you looking to hire anybody soon in case there's someone that's going to watch this saying, I want to go to Cabo this Christmas?
It's a possibility. We're really, really busy. You don't want to overhire because you never want to have to lay anybody off. That's like the worst thing to do. So I'm really cautious about hiring new people unless I'm like sure and we're desperate and we're falling apart, then but the way it's been looking the last 3 weeks, it's very, very likely.
Well, on that note, thank you, Noelle, and we really appreciate you joining us for this, I guess, installment of Pancakes with Principals. So thank you very much.
It's super fun. Thank you guys for having me. And I'm going to go watch the other ones on the website too.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
All right.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Yes.